Well. What's going on, Nosebleed Nation? It's your boy, Coach Mike D, and we're here live with breaking news. I think everybody has seen it already, flashing over ESPN, flashing over all the news and social media websites. Micah Parsons has been traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. An explosive trade probably has not happened to the Dallas organization since 1988 when they got a blockbuster free agent by the name of Herschel Walker. This trade is very unusual, and it doesn't happen that often. But we're going to go into the details of it a little bit and find out the impacts of how it impacts the Packers and how it also impacts the Dallas Cowboys. So the trade details are pretty simple. So the Green Bay Packers gave Micah Parsons a 4-year deal worth $188 million, which is the richest contract for a non-quarterback, which is what everybody suspected he would get. The average per million per year is $47 million a year, which is crazy money. And hats off to Micah Parsons for getting that money, and hats off to his agent. He has got $136 million guaranteed in the contract. So it's a lot of money involved in it. So real good to him. What does the Cowboys get in trade? So the Cowboys got 2 first-round picks. They got next year's 2026 pick, first-round pick, and a year after that, the 2027 pick. They also receive defensive tackle Kenny Clark, Pro Bowl player out of UCLA, who was the Packers' former first-round pick with a 27th pick overall to the Green Bay Packers. So the Cowboys are trying to shore up their defense, which was atrocious on the run end of the defense. So they did get a player and receive, but they got some picks. We'll see what they do with them. We don't know. But this was an unusual situation. Of course, all the speculation going on all week. You know, people seeing Micah Parsons leave in the airport, going to get a second opinion about his back. And I guess he was daring the Cowboys to, call his bluff about his back tightness. But this is unheard of. A generational type player being done like this, to where a team gets rid of a Hall of Fame art caliber player. Okay, Micah Parsons is not an ordinary player. And I'm going to go down a little bit and show you why he is not an ordinary type player. So Micah Parsons, since he came in the league, has 52.5 sacks in 63 games that he has played. That is unheard of, guys. There's only been one other player that is even in the same league as him, and he's one of 2. The other was Reggie White. The late, great Reggie White, Hall of Fame defensive tackle, who is number 2 all-time in sacks in NFL history. When it comes to Micah Parsons, since he came in the NFL in 2021, he has 330 quarterback pressures. I'm going to say it again for the people in the back of the room. He has 330 quarterback pressures. That is tied for number 2 in the National Football League with Max Crosby, another high premier edge rusher who got his money. And is still with the same team that drafted him. Okay? So I'm giving you an idea of what we're talking about, the type of player that Micah Parsons is. He is the reigning 2021 Defensive Rookie of the Year. He is a 2-time All-Pro, and he has been to the Pro Bowl all 4 years. He has been in the National Football League. Again, this is a Hall of Fame type player, and that's why it seemed unusual that the Cowboys would do this. I thought they were just going to hold on to his rights and do like what the Pittsburgh Steelers did to the running back that they had, Le'Veon Bell, who was trying to get more money and wouldn't play on the franchise tag. I thought they would probably do that. Well, I guess Jerry said no. The end is near, and it seems like that the Cowboys really left a bad taste in Micah's mouth, especially Jerry Jones, when it came to the contract negotiations, when he tried to go behind the agent's back and make it seem like Micah, had another thing coming. But it's okay. But this is the top things that we're looking at. So how is this deal going to affect both teams? Well, let's look at Green Bay, since Green Bay just got a premier pass rusher, okay? So the Green Bay Packers, let's look at them on offense. The Green Bay Packers offense was ranked 5th in the National Football League in total offense. So they have a very high-powered offense, very young offense. Jordan Love, who sat behind Aaron Rodgers and learned a lot, showed that he is ready to play when he won that playoff game 2 years ago against the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, where they routed them in an explosive display of run offense and pass offense and just blew through them. They are the number 5 total offense team in the league. Now, with that kind of offense, you would think we just got to make sure our defense can really hold their own so we can try to win and get to the ultimate goal of getting to a Super Bowl. Well, let's look at their defense. Well, the Green Bay Packers, shockingly, which I didn't know until I looked it up, is the number 6 ranked total defense in the National Football League, guys. They are a top 10 defense. Wow. And they just got one of the most premier edge rushers in the National Football League to go with that number 6 ranked defense. They were number 8 in sacks. Whoa. Again, top 10 in sacks. You just add Micah Parsons, you add 12 sacks potentially to that room, which Micah Parsons, in his first 4 years, has had 12 sacks, again, tied with the late, great Reggie White. They were number 7 in run defense. Another top 10 defense when it comes to stopping the run. So a lot of critics against Micah Parsons that he's bad against the run. Well, let's examine that. Well, the Green Bay Packers have better personnel. Well, 2 of their premier defenders on that 7th ranked defense was Rashawn Gary, who went to the University of Michigan, and TJ Slayton, who went to the University of Florida. They anchored the middle of that defense to give them that 7th ranked rush defense that they had in the National Football League. They have guys that can protect Micah Parsons and allow him to fly around the ball. Well, I'll give you a different thing. The 2002 Baltimore Ravens had Tony Saragusa in the middle of their defense protecting Ray Lewis to let him fly around the ball and make tackles and sack the quarterback. Well, you got to have guys up in the middle. Well, the Green Bay Packers have that. They have a very good defense. The back end is very good and very young. Now, they did lose Zaire Alexander to the Baltimore Ravens in free agency when they cut him and released him to free up some cap space. That still does not take anything away from their defense. It is premier. So what am I saying here? Micah Parsons will play a huge part into upgrading their 8th in the league sack rate in the National Football League. You're adding that to your room. That means that all the teams that are in the NFC division are now like, whoa, we got a problem. Houston, get the bells going, or sound the alarms. Everything is wrong. Green Bay is on the rise. Now, this is one of the biggest free agency pickups that the Green Bay Packers have done since Reggie White. In 1993, the Green Bay Packers acquired Reggie White in free agency for a 4-year, $17 million contract. At that time, was pretty big money for a defensive end. But Reggie White was unique. So they paid him 4 years, $17 million. Now, also, this was the first year of unrestricted free agency. Matter of fact, Reggie White was the one who had a lawsuit against the National Football League about becoming an unrestricted free agent, which most players cannot become. Well, Reggie White won that lawsuit and went to the Green Bay Packers. Well, what did that do for the Green Bay Packers? They went to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl, beating the New England Patriots 35-21 in Super Bowl 31. That is the benefit of having an elite Hall of Fame player on your roster. When you have an elite offense like they did with Brett Favre and Brooks and all those guys, in the middle with Gilbert Brown and all those good players they had in that defense, they were elite and they won the Super Bowl. So this is what a player can do. Now, are we saying that Micah Parsons is going to push the Green Bay Packers to becoming a Super Bowl team? Well, when you look at where they're ranked at on defense, where they're ranked at on offense, a player like this can change those fortunes, especially when you're in the NFC North Division. Let's examine that. The NFC North Division has 3 of the top 10 offenses in the National Football League. The top one, who ranked number 2 in offense and passing yards, was the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff led the league in number 2 in passing, and they were number 2 in total offense passing. Well, you just added Micah Parsons to that room. Jared Goff going to be looking for that guy. So he's going to try to find out where number 11 is lined up, especially with that defense. What do you think that's going to do to the back end? Well, will Jared Goff start making unruly decisions with the ball, start throwing it faster, trying to get it out of his hand? Will he get blindsided and throw an interception? Well, that's a possibility when you have an edge rusher like Micah Parsons. So putting the pressure on them makes it a lot more better. Then when you look at the Minnesota Vikings was a top 10 offense last year. Yes, Sam Darnold now is in Seattle, but they're relying on J.J. McCarthy. Now, J.J. McCarthy is coming to essentially his rookie year after coming off a knee injury, tearing his ACL, which ended his season. So they're trying to see what he can do, and now this happens. Now he got to worry about number 11 barreling down on him, and that could be a potential disaster for a high-powered offense like the Green Bay, like the Minnesota Vikings. So the ramifications are you're starting to see it. Same thing with the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears just went and got Ben Johnson to try to shore up the offense and put Caleb Williams in a situation where he can be successful. Well, now he got to think about not only Aiden Hutchinson, who was an elite pass rusher before he got hurt last year with a broken leg with the Detroit Lions. Now you got to worry about Micah Parsons. So this is just changing the whole dynamic of that division on where Green Bay sits in the hierarchy. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of pundits and a lot of the experts are going to be changing their order of how they had the rankings of who was going to finish in that division, me included. So I got to go back to the drawing board. So it's just amazing, and it just mind boggles me that this happened. Let's look at the Cowboys on how that affects them. Now, it's going to dramatically affect the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys had one of the worst defenses in the National Football League. They were ranked 28th in total defense. That is atrocious. The Panthers of Carolina were dead last. Then you had the Cincinnati Bengals, who were 31 ranked in defense. And like I said, the Cowboys were not that far away. So their defense was atrocious. They could not stop a cold. The only thing they had going good for them is that they were the number 3 sack team in the National Football League. Wow. Really? I wonder why. Well, Micah Parsons was tied for 5th in the National Football League in sacks with 12.5. That's why. Micah Parsons requires on passing downs for the offense to account for him with putting extra people out there. So that frees up other players to get to the quarterback. So his impact on the game is a lot better than the ordinary player. He also was responsible for a lot of penalties. Micah Parsons caused a lot of the offensive tackles and guards to hold him because he was such a good speed rusher. So that also would put the offense in weighty downs that were first and 20, first and 25, second and 17, which now he becomes more effective. And now on the back end where he has DeRon Bland and Trevon Diggs that can now do their thing, getting interceptions and running back pick sixes. When you think this is not going to affect DeRon Bland, well, he led the National Football League last year in pick sixes, broke an NFL record. So the ramification of Micah not being with the Cowboys is definitely going to be reverberated through their organization. They were number 29 in run defense. I'm going to say that again. Number 29 in run defense. Now, people kept saying that, oh, he's atrocious in run defense. Well, how do you protect your best pass rusher or best defender? With personnel. That means that their personnel on the interior line and linebackers were atrocious. There were times where the Cowboys were playing with strong safeties at linebacker. Now, where they do that at? We saw that happen in the Green Bay game where they just ran down their throat because all their linebackers were hurt and their defensive tackles couldn't stop a cold. So that's why Micah Parsons looked pedestrian, because his personnel was pedestrian. So they were 17th in pass defense. Yeah, they were middle of the road, but again, you can be 17th at least middle of the road when you have a 3rd-ranked sack defense. When a guy's getting up the field and helping out your defense, at least be able to defend against the pass. So my final thought on this is, when it comes to the Cowboys' move with Micah Parsons, I think this move was idiotic. Teams do not trade players of this caliber. These are Hall of Fame archetype players. Organizations dream of getting players like this in their organization when they draft them, because frankly, they don't know what a player is going to be. They don't know what his work ethic is going to look like. They don't know what his on or off the field player is going to look like. They don't know how he's going to impact games or what they saw in college football when Michael was at Penn State that was going to translate to the NFL. It looks good on paper, looks good on film, but you really don't know until you play with grown men in the NFL, which the NFL is known for, grown men league. The Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones is pretty much an ego trip. They allow themselves to get caught up in their feelings, Jerry Jones mainly, and get rid of a player that could set your organization back dramatically. I'll give an example. When Andrew Luck retired from the Indianapolis Colts, they are still trying to find his replacement. When Peyton Manning left that organization, when they drafted Andrew Luck, they called him one of the most NFL-ready type quarterbacks that the league has seen in years. He took that team to a playoff game their first year. And then he got hurt, and they have been pedestrian ever since. They just put their number 4 overall pick from Florida on the bench for Daniel Jones. So you can see how that can impact an organization when you're steady trying to find that player that can put you over the top and get you to the Super Bowl. Frankly, I'm happy for Micah Parsons. I'm glad he got out of that situation. If it's toxic, get out of it. But Jerry Jones need to look himself in the mirror, and I think the Dallas organization is going to look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, what are we doing here? Because they're going to be just like, if I can make a comparison, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals were a high-powered offense with no defense. The Cowboys went and acquired George Pickens from my Pittsburgh Steelers, and they gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. So they're trying to compete with the Eagles, with the Eagles' 2-headed monster receiver with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, and trying to compete in that division, especially now with the emergence of the Commanders. Now, don't get it twisted. That New York Giants team has a very good defense, and with Russell Wilson at the helm, he'll at least be able to mask some of their stuff, and I think the Giants will be better than what people think. So the Cowboys right now are in kind of in purgatory. If they are ranked number 3 in the NFL in sacks and you lose your premier pass rusher, and the defense was ranked 28th overall, what do you think it's going to be now? I'll let you decide. Hey, Nosebleed Nation, you know we love y'all, man. Coming straight from the cheap seats. Like, comment, subscribe. You tell me what you think. If you like this, hey, man, it's been a hell of a day. It's been raining down here in Dallas. A big rainy day. It was raining like crazy. And it probably was the tears of the Cowboy fans. And I think they all understand it's going to be another year. So Nosebleed, man, love y'all to death. Like, comment, subscribe down low. Appreciate you as always. You know how I do it. We the Nosebleed Nation from the cheap seats, where the real people who buy the tickets and watch the game do their thing. You heard me? Y'all have a good day, and y'all be safe. Peace.